Okay, all right, Mayor, we are on Facebook Live for the April 6th, 2021 Town Council Council Meeting. And I'll pass it off to you, Mayor.
Great, thanks, Jim, and good evening, everybody. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 11th, 2020. The notice was, on that date, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader in the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Mrs. Rowley, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle,
Here.
Councilmember Tapgood,
Here.
Parmalee,
Here.
Agrippo,
Here.
Katz,
Here.
Mackey,
Here.
Contract,
Here.
Dardia,
Here.
Boyce.
Here.
Thank you. And could you please stand and join me for a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
and
To
to
the
the
republic
republic
for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
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 with liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
all. So Jim, before we move to appointments, I thought you could give a few updates.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. Sounds like you're getting something delivered. Okay, so a couple updates from me tonight, really four things. First, Minnewaska Park. At their previous meeting tonight, we had Clara Christian came to present her second phase of her Veronica's Garden proposal, which the council approved. We're very excited about. Residents on the call, and the public, her first phase was Veronica's Garden, which was a new garden, new plantings on the upper, what we'll call plateau of Minnewaska on the Mountain Avenue side. I just wanted to mention that because, you know, her project really began to spark, inspire us to kind of get some things done in that location. The Friends of Minnewaska Park, who have been our great partners for many years, have requested the clearing of what I call Daffodil Hill for many years, which is the hill that goes from the plateau down to the lower part of the park there. And we finally got around to just starting that process just a few weeks ago. And we've also been partnering with the Garden Club of Westfield. I actually spoke to representatives from there today, and they reminded me that it's actually called Daffodil Bank, not Daffodil Hill, which is something that they actually very proudly and maintained for many, many years. And they're looking forward to kind of getting back into that. So it's one of the residents to know that this is a process that's been in progress for some time, finally get out there to do some clearing. And we're partnering with the Friends of Minnewaska and the Garden Club of Westfield to begin to restore this area to its natural state, which really you're supposed to be able to see the entire Minnewaska Park from the upper plateau on Mountain Avenue, which now, if you're driven by it, you can see it, which is really nice. And it's going to be even nicer as we decide what's going to be done with that Daffodil Bank area besides whatever the Garden Club wants to recommend to us and the Friends of Minnewaska. So we're excited about that going back. That's how the process got started. And it's really going to be going on for the next number of months. But I want to thank Public Works for doing the work they've done so far, and also the partnership with the Friends of Minnewaska and the Garden Club of Westfield. So more to come on that, but exciting beginnings there, and it already looks looks nice and clean, and going to only get better. Second item is PBA. On the agenda tonight is an introduction of an ordinance to adopt a newly negotiated voluntary settlement between the town of Westfield and the PBA local number 90. We're very excited about this. I want to thank the PBA membership as well as the two representatives, Paul Ferry and Jason Merritt, who worked with us particularly the past 6 months quite a bit, but for some time as well, the past year and a half, negotiating this contract. So it's a 5-year deal with the PBA going through 2023. And we believe it's good for both parties, and we're excited to have this done. And the good news, as we discussed in our previous meeting, all labor contracts will now be settled with the town of Westfield at least through 2021 and beyond. which is always good news. It's a lot of work to go through these and do these, but it's also very, very important work, not only for the town, but for the employees of the town. So I want to thank the PBA, and we're excited to introduce this tonight. And then at the next meeting, we'll have hopefully the adoption of the ordinance, as well as resolutions for retroactive pay for the members of the PBA. Three capital ordinance tonight. On the agenda, we have the capital ordinance we introduced, the council introduced 2 weeks ago. It's on for second reading tonight. And of course, after the adoption, we expect to be done tonight. There'll be a estoppel period where the money cannot be accessed till basically the end of the month. During that time frame, the engineering office will be working on the plans and specs and bid specs for mostly the road paving jobs that are going on. And that's really one of the exciting parts about this. Not only do we have road paving the town's doing, but we're already seeing some of the work going on in town for road paving that we're preparing for with the utility company doing it at their expense. So in town the past few weeks, and probably another week or two more, there's federally required ADA ramps going in all various locations in advance of paving. So we don't have to cut the road open after the paving is done. And those are being done now. The company we hired recently is doing a really great job, doing it very quickly as well. And I guess as early as maybe next week or the week after, we may begin to see paving begin. Elizabethtown Gas is eager to get started on some of the areas that are finished with their infrastructure improvements. So we'll be getting more information out to the public on that. And I want to remind everybody to sign up for town updates on road paving, the Westfield Connect app, our website, Facebook page. Those are all 4 areas that we actually on a regular basis update road paving in the season, which is really going to get started basically hopefully next week with basically weekly updates of what's going on, what to expect. So very exciting to have that process start. But again, a reminder, it is expected that Elizabethtown Gas will pave approximately 13 miles of road this year, and we're going to be paving on our own roughly 5.5 miles. So pretty significant paving platform this year, which we're excited to get done and get started early. So that was very exciting, and hopefully tonight that'll get through, and we'll have a great seamless transition to the paving process. And thanking Chris Macklin ahead of time, getting all this stuff done before he retires to pass off a fully silver plate process to the next engineer when he or she starts, hopefully in the next month or two. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And lastly, had a very nice meeting today at the firehouse. Chief Tiller could not make the meeting tonight. He's actually has a celebratory birthday with his brother-in-law. But he and I, Councilman Mackey, were at firehouse headquarters today, meeting with Tom Malinowski, Congressman Malinowski today, who was making rounds to all towns in the county, just coming by and thanking first responders. In this case, it was for firefighters today, to thank them for their service and talk about some of the things he's doing in Washington for the towns and so forth. It was a very nice meeting. We had a really nice, the whole platoon was out there today. We had members of the state FMBA, they were there this morning. A nice meeting and a nice discussion. And Congressman Malinowski and I and Dawn Mackey had a quick conversation at the end about the American Rescue Act of money that is coming our way. And he assured us that he'll make the process as easy as possible to make sure we get the money and can report it. So very nice meeting today. I want to thank Councilman Mackey for coming and Congressman Malinowski for really coming over to do some nice work. I know the mayor was going to be there, couldn't make it today, but he did say hello, Mayor, that he missed you over there. So, but again, those are my comments for tonight. Unless anyone has any questions. Nope. Okay. You're on mute.
There you go. I think it's safe. I think I'm safe from dogs barking. Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. And thanks once again for joining us virtually tonight. Please remember, public comment is only accepted via Zoom, even though we're live streaming it on Facebook. So please use the Zoom link if you want to provide any public comment. On the COVID front, hopefully most everybody heard the good news that was announced yesterday by Governor Murphy, that all New Jerseyans aged 16 above will be eligible to be vaccinated beginning April 19th, which is terrific news. And even greater news was travel guidance was updated to reflect that fully vaccinated individuals and those who have recovered from COVID-19 in the past 3 months who travel domestically are not required to self-quarantine after their trip or to get a COVID-19 test before or after. Unvaccinated individuals are still subject to the quarantine guidance. And there's still issues around international travel where negative test results are required. So you can always check all the latest at the New Jersey COVID Information Hub. Regarding cases in New Jersey, unfortunately, they're still really high in spite of the positive news on the vaccination front. The 7-day average for confirmed COVID cases in New Jersey is down 2% from a week ago and up 32% from a month ago. The rate of transmission is 1.06. On the vaccination front, New Jersey has administered nearly 4.8 million doses of the vaccine, including more than 1.8 million people who have been fully vaccinated. Again, all information updated on the New Jersey COVID-19 dashboard. On the local front, you may not know, but this week is National Public Health Week. And I would like to take a moment to recognize the dedicated employees of the Westfield Regional Health Department, who I think we've had a front row seat in seeing how tirelessly they have worked over the past year in unprecedented circumstances and have provided timely and critical information to the public during the pandemic. Led by Regional Health Officer Megan Avalone, the team has investigated over 8,000 cases in the 8 communities they serve, including more than 2,000 cases in Westfield. They have also started a vital role in coordinating outreach efforts to vulnerable populations, providing information resources about the virus and vaccines, assisting with the recent pop-up vaccination clinic for the underserved, partnering with community organizations, and launching the new homebound vaccination program, which started this week. In addition, and very importantly, Megan was chosen to be interviewed for the New Jersey Oral History Museum about the local public health response to the pandemic and what that response has meant to their personal lives. And it's really only fitting that Megan's vast contributions will be part of a permanent record of what is a truly incredible time for generations to come. So I just want to, on behalf of all of us, extend our thanks to Megan, all of the incredibly talented and dedicated team members in our health department for all the work that they have done and continue to do for our community. On another note, I recently attended the first meeting of the State League of Municipalities Liquor License Task Force, to which I have been appointed with 6 other members throughout New Jersey. I'm a passionate advocate about this. I am thrilled to have a seat at the table on this issue. And we are charged with working with a bipartisan group of legislators on reforming our archaic liquor license laws, which is vital to the long-term vitality of downtowns all over the state. We're fortunate to have the support of Downtown New Jersey, which is led by our DWC Executive Director, Bob Zuckerman, as we seek to find solutions that protects the investment of existing license holders while allowing New Jersey to be up with the times and to compete for the best restaurant talent and economic prospects that they bring with neighboring states. On other fronts, Earth Month is here. The Green Team has been busy planning. I'm going to let Councilman Contract give an update on that later, but we're excited that the free market is returning on April 24th, and he can give you all the details on that. Also, I want to remind everybody on April 26th, in 3 weeks, at 1 p.m., Lifelong Westfield and the Westfield Police Department will present a webinar to help residents identify and avoid frauds and scams, so many of which target senior citizens and are on the rise during the pandemic. So attendees must register in advance to get the Zoom information. So please email westfieldnjseniors@gmail.com and they'll send you the Zoom link. We have 2 very exciting Facebook Live discussions coming up. My first one was with our chief, Datalora, and he and I will be chatting at noon on Thursday, which is this April 8th. And I'm going to be kind of interviewing Chris, if you will, and he's going to provide an update on the latest efforts of the Westfield Police Department, including the ongoing car burglaries and thefts, how they are thoughtfully addressing the teen gatherings in Mindawasket and elsewhere, and what the downtown enforcement plans are going to look like during outdoor dining, as far as even parking and biking. We want to talk a little bit too about the recent accreditation process that they just achieved. So if you want to submit a question in advance, you can visit westfieldnj.gov/Facebook Live, and you can also tune in and leave questions in the comments, and we'll try to address them live as well. But there's another one I'm really excited about the following week, Wednesday, April 14th at 7 o'clock. I'll be hosting a Facebook Live called More Than Just a Gazebo. It is a discussion focused on the impact and importance of public spaces in civic life. And we have this incredible panel, which we're thrilled to have here in Westfield, beginning with Asima Jansfeld. She's a Westfield resident and executive director of the Highline Network. We have Don Samet, our illustrious town planner. We have Phil Abramson, our redevelopment planner from Topology, Richard Heaps, who many of you have heard from Streetworks Development, and very exciting, a special guest, Dan Biederman, and he's the executive director of Bryant Park and president of Biederman Redevelopment Ventures. I had a front row seat. I worked next to Bryant Park for 20 years, and I got to see the evolution of that park to what we all know it is today, and that was all led by Dan Biederman. And we're very lucky he's going to be on this panel with us. And not only that, is he working with us as we look at creating really incredible programming places for us in our downtown. So please, that's April 14th at 7 o'clock. So very excited about that in the evening. And regarding downtown, I'm actually going to let Councilwoman Mackey address what's going on there later. But just please know the expanded outdoor dining is in the works. As I mentioned, the DWC is working with Streetworks and Dan Biederman, and there's some exciting things coming up. But I will let Don give a little bit more details later in the evening. Regarding the agenda tonight, we have a very productive one as usual. We'll hear an ordinance on second reading for the adoption of the 2021 capital budget, which means that we will soon be able to pave our roads and get public safety equipment for our fire, police, and public works departments, and looking at some new amenities for our parks. Also on second reading is an ordinance requiring landscapers and tree companies to register each year with the town, which allows us an opportunity to provide information about rules and regulations that relate to the work that they perform. And I think Councilor Parmalee might expound upon that a little bit when that ordinance comes up for a vote. And we also, very importantly, I think about to do this next, as part of a broader effort to incorporate safe bicycling options in town. We're about to appoint members to the newly reestablished Bicycle Advisory Board. I'd like to thank Councilman Daugherty for that. He might have a few words to say on that later. And we're also going to be voting on a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for funding through the Sustainable Jersey Grants program to help us design and improve bike infrastructure. So I don't know if anybody will have if Mike or Dave will have anything more to say about that. So with that, let's move on to the agenda. Remember, I'll be enforcing Robert's rules to make sure we stay on topic and the meeting runs efficiently. So with that, I think we're going to go right to appointing the bicycle board. So to that, I would like to propose the following appointments to the bicycle board for a term ending December 31st, 2021. Lisa Braddock is a resident. Angela Knowles, the resident. Zachary Raphael, a resident. Anthony Utitis is a resident. Jen Marcher will be representing a PTA member. Julie Ballman is a PTM member, and the Green Team liaison is Zoe McKelvey. And the council liaison to the bicycle board is going to be Councilman Scott Capps, who's also the liaison to the Recreation Commission. May I have a motion to accept these appointments?
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Councilman Daugherty, I don't know if you have anything you want to add?
I do, Mayor. And yeah, this is really exciting to have this Bicycle Advisory Board reinvigorated. It comes at a great time, a time when we have really made a lot of strong efforts to provide some infrastructure, some planning around safe streets and safe sidewalks. But regarding the Bicycle Advisory Board, I want to thank Councilman Boyes for helping me choose the different members that have been chosen. We had quite a few applicants, all very well qualified, but those who have been appointed, really want to thank them for throwing their hat in the ring. They are excellent. We look forward to their efforts around developing infrastructure, and that specifically is around looking at the pedestrian and bicycle master plan, and of course, the land use circulation element that's going to be coming out soon. And also coming, looking at promoting bike safety, of course, around town, and driving innovation. There are quite a few best practices out there, and we are looking forward to this group kind of driving those industry best practices. So, and also thank you, Councilman Scott Katz, for serving as the liaison to this newly established group. So thanks. This is great.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? This motion is carried. And I think we have some proclamations for tonight. The first one I'd like to recognize is Parkinson's Awareness Month. And I don't know, we did have, I think it was Barbara Rink. I don't know if she's on here. Do you see her, Jim, anywhere? She was to raise her hand. This was at her request. And let me I know she's very active in the local group and some surrounding Parkinson's groups. So I'm just going to read this proclamation. Whereas Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative brain disorder in the United States, with symptoms that vary person to person and may include tremors, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, and speaking, slowness of movement and rigidity, cognitive impairment and dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. And whereas Parkinson's disease is estimated to affect approximately 1 million people in the US alone, and the prevalence will rise to 1.2 million by 2030. And whereas Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown, and there is no objective test or biomarker for the disease. And whereas there is no standard treatment for this disease, treatment for each person is based on his or her symptoms and may include medication, surgery, and lifestyle modifications, such as more rest and exercise, but no treatment as yet will reverse the effects of the disease. And whereas, according to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, the total cost of Parkinson's disease to individuals, families, and the U.S. government totals nearly $52 billion a year, which includes $26.5 billion of non-medical costs like missed work, lost wages, early forced retirement, and family caregiver time, demonstrating the devastating effects the disease has on persons' finances and ability to participate in the labor market. And whereas Parkinson's disease affects not only the patient, but the patient's loved ones and caregivers, and whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life for persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families. And whereas increased education and research are desperately needed to find more effective and lasting treatments and ultimately a cure for this debilitating disease. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, in recognition of the need to bring awareness to the plight of Parkinson's patients and their families, do hereby designate the month of April of 2021 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in the town of Westfield. Be it further proclaimed that I hereby encourage my fellow residents to visit the Parkinson's Disease Foundation website at parkinson.org and the Michael J. Fox Foundation at michaeljfox.org for more information about the disease and how you can help. So thank you to Ms. Rink for bringing this to our attention, and happy to fulfill this request. And we have another one. Hold on, let me find this one. Bear with me. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Sorry, I've got all kinds of things on my screen. And on this one, I would like to acknowledge, Jim, I think there's a few people on the phone. Is Taylor Addis and Michelle Cisneros, Diana Rollis, Jessica Norworth, and Debbie Hoffman. So I will read this, but I want to make sure they're here and that we can acknowledge them.
We have a Michael Addis on the line, Michelle Cisneros.
Great. I think is Taylor on here? Taylor Addis?
I think Taylor might be in with
With them. Okay, great. Okay. So this is a proclamation acknowledging the efforts of Gen to Gen and our recent vaccination efforts for seniors. So whereas on March 11, 2020, COVID-19 was declared a worldwide pandemic by the World Health Organization. And whereas since the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, pharmaceutical researchers, governments, universities, and public health authorities joined forces and worked round the clock to develop a preventive vaccine against the virus that causes COVID-19. And on December 11th, 2021, the US FDA issued its first emergency use authorization for a COVID-19 vaccine. And whereas on December 14, 2020, the New Jersey Department of Health implemented its comprehensive vaccine education and prioritization plan to manage the distribution and administration of available doses. And effective January 14, 2021, persons aged 65 and older became eligible to receive it. And whereas in order to receive the vaccine, appointments at designated vaccination sites are required. And whereas due to high demand, appointments filled up seemingly instantly, and it became apparent that senior citizens who may not have the technology or comfort level needed to navigate various websites in search of an available appointment may be at a disadvantage. And whereas on February 12, 2021, upon realizing how difficult it could be for some senior citizens to book their own appointments, Westfield High School junior Taylor Addis, her aunt, Mountainside resident Michelle Cisneros, and Seton Hall freshman Diana Rios founded Gen to Gen Helpers in an effort to help secure vaccine appointments for seniors. And whereas, with a pool of Taylor's high school classmates and childhood friends making up the initial group of volunteers, the Gen to Gen founders began their efforts by creating an easy to follow Google form and publishing it on a popular Westfield Moms Group Facebook page. And whereas, after various media outlets reported on the helpers' compassionate endeavor, the request for assistance from seniors and the number of volunteers stepping up to help increased exponentially. And whereas Gen to Gen organized its efforts by utilizing administrators to assign appointment requests, train new volunteers, coordinate transportation requests, and ensure notifications were received. And when demand intensified, Gen to Gen expanded the number of administrators to include experienced volunteers, Westfield High School teacher Jessica Norworth and Mountainside resident Debbie Hoffman. And whereas working closely with the local community organizations, the Westfield Regional Health Department, and various Union County senior groups, Gen to Gen Helpers has to date successfully booked over 2,000 appointments for senior citizens. And whereas the founders and all of the volunteers associated with Gen to Gen Helpers are deserving of our recognition and appreciation for their compassionate and successful endeavor. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, town of Westfield, on behalf of our beloved senior citizens and their families and friends, do hereby extend a heartfelt thank you to the founders of Gen to Gen Helpers, Taylor Addis, Michelle Cisneros, and Diana Rios, and all the Gen to Gen volunteers who have worked tirelessly to book over 2,000 appointments for COVID-19 vaccinations. I can't even tell you what incredible effort this was, and really incredible on the youth. And I also, while acknowledging their efforts, which is incredibly inspiring, I do want to acknowledge the efforts of Chief Badalore and the police department, who offered rides to seniors for vaccination appointments. I also want to extend also to let everybody know that the efforts of the New Jersey Black Women's Physicians Association, led by Dr. Pam Brugge, the Westfield Community Center, and the Westfield Neighborhood Council, all came together to get folks registered, and those names were put on a list that were then sent to the Gen to Gen Helpers in many cases. So is that Taylor? Raise your hands, guys. I just want to see, is that Taylor and Debbie and Jessica? So Taylor, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience and how it came to be?
Sure. It's been great. And I think it's just been really rewarding to see all the senior citizens, and they'll email us and like say we're angels and all this stuff. But it's really just been amazing to help in any way we can.
How did you get started? Did you start helping a family friend, and then how did it become what it was?
Well, my aunt had experience with booking my grandparents, and we all knew how difficult it was. And so we like saw it was a really big issue, and just as you said, it made a form, and we really just wanted to help our community. So, yeah.
And how did you figure out the tricks to finding vaccine appointments for people?
Oh, well, there's a Facebook group and there's a bunch of Twitter accounts. And so we really just like made a doc and like had trainings and just had a bunch of tips that we collected together and shared with all of our volunteers.
Well, it's incredible. And thank you. And so who were the administrators? It was,
Jessica and
Jessica. And so, and what was your role, the two of you as administrators?
But we just assigned senior citizens to the volunteers to make appointments and kept up with the spreadsheets, all the different administrative tasks, which became very difficult because so many people signed up so quickly.
And so you would get the appointments and then assign them to certain people. You'd get the names and assign them to certain people to find. Wow, it's incredible. So, well, we are very happy to publicly acknowledge and recognize you guys. It really, I mean, stories like this really represent the best of our community during such a really terrible time. And it's what makes us all feel, looking at the silver lining of these things is especially the high school kids, and I think really are the ones I find just most inspiring. There's a lot of hope for us in this next generation. So congratulations, with such gratitude from the entire community. Thank you, incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great job.
All right, so let's see, where are we? Councilman Contract, were you given the Green Team grant update?
No, we actually have a member of the Green
Yep.
Team who actually.
Oh,
wrote
we
the
do, I'm
grant,
sorry, okay.
Peter Goldberg. He's going to update the council and the community on one of the grants we won last year for storm window installation in Town Hall to make it more energy efficient. So I think there's Peter.
Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Goldberg. By day, I manage an energy efficiency emerging technologies team at Con Edison, and by night, I am a member of the Westfield Green Team. As David said, tonight I'm here to report out on the recent installation of Loewy storm windows in Town Hall. As I'm sure many people on the council are aware, the administrative conference room is notorious for being too cold in the winter and too hot in the summer. And the culprits are the large single pane windows in that room. They let the heat in during the summer and they let the heat out during the winter. And that not only makes the room uncomfortable for you guys, it also makes the furnace work harder and the AC work harder, and that wastes energy and costs the town money. So that's why the Green Team applied for a Sustainable Jersey Gardenier grant to install Loewy storm windows in Town Hall. And the idea behind Loewy storm windows is simple. If you have an inefficient, drafty single pane window and you stick an extra pane of glass on the inside, then you basically have a much more efficient double pane window. And the low E or low emissivity coating, it's transparent, you can see through it just fine, but it blocks UV rays and radiant heat, which basically keeps the heat from getting through the window. So the town used $6,075 of Gardenier grant money to buy 7 Quanta panel architectural Loewy storm windows and install them in the administrative conference room and the mayor's conference room. Loewy storm windows cost much less than full window replacements, and they're much less disruptive to building operations and the aesthetics of a historic building like Town Hall. The storm windows that were installed will save over 80 therms and 100 kilowatt hours per year for the next 30 years. More broadly, installing Loewy storm windows helps make Westfield a leader in energy efficiency. By growing awareness of this important technology, Westfield's contributing to a measure that both saves energy and makes future electrification efforts much easier. So I'd like to thank everybody for your time here. And if you like those storm windows, I'd encourage you to consider installing them elsewhere on the town's properties.
Yeah, like in the freezing mayor's office.
I just want to say, I want to thank Peter because this process, Peter was, because of his daytime job, he was able to provide some great contacts for us that we use for this process. And I know you haven't been to town hall because it's still not having in-person meetings yet, but I did send pictures to Peter, the members of the green team. The installation was, if you didn't know that we did it, you wouldn't know they're there. The company, we had a separate installing company versus the Quanta panel windows we purchased. They did a phenomenal job. And anecdotally, I share with Peter and David that it's not scientific, but I know that Joan and I in my office here have seen a major difference already where in the wintertime, where you can clearly tell that it's not as cold in that room. And it was one of the coldest places on the first floor. So definitely anecdotal evidence is that they're working, but they look great and you wouldn't really know they're there. So thank you, Peter, for all your efforts and your contacts that we use in this process.
Thank you.
Great.
Can
Thank you,
I add
Peter.
can I add one quick thing besides that? Big thank you to Peter and a few other members of the green team who helped out with the grant application. But if residents want the same benefit in their home, you can use the Seal Power Westfield Home Energy Savings Program to figure out how you can make your home more energy efficient. The mayor's been through it for, I think it's $49. They'll do a comprehensive 3-hour audit and identify every energy efficient opportunity in your house. And then there's low cost loans and there's grants to cover some of those costs. So definitely, if you feel the pain that we did in town hall in your own home, explore it because it can really make a difference.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Mrs. Rowley, are there any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, there are 4 advertised hearings tonight. The first is for General Ordinance number 2210, an ordinance for calendar year 2021 to establish a cap bank. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance number 2210, please virtually raise your hand to make a comment. Be sure to include your name and address for the record.
You'd like to be heard on General Ordinance 2210? Seeing none there, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
Next is Special Ordinance number 2221, bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new additional or replacement equipment and machinery, new communication and signal systems equipment, and new information technology equipment in, by, and for the town of Westfield, County of Union, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2,650,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. Anyone wishing to be heard on Special Ordinance number 2221, please virtually raise your hand to make your comment. Be sure to include your name and address for the record.
Like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none there, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
Next is General Ordinance number 2211, an ordinance rescinding certain provisions of the town code for the town of Westfield. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance number 2211, please virtually raise your hand for the record. Be sure to include your name and address.
You'd like to be heard on General Ordinance? Nope. All right, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
Last is for General Ordinance number 2212, an ordinance requiring the licensing and registration of landscapers within the town of Westfield and making certain amendments to the Conservation Center regulations. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance number 2212, please virtually raise your hand and make your comment. Be sure to include your name and address for the record.
We do have one person, Rob Dalgleish. Right there. Yes, name and address, please.
Hi, Rob Dalgleish, 825 Prospect Street.
Sure. Go ahead.
I had a question about this ordinance. It seems to restrict who I'm able to hire to mow my lawn. So I was just wondering what the goal was and what the criteria will be for people to get this license. Like, will you turn anybody away?
I don't know. I don't believe so at all. This is strictly to have a registration for any landscaper that wants to work in town. It's a very simple registration annually, and it's really designed to the registration is simply designed to create a list of people in town that obviously are doing work in town, but more importantly, to provide them the information annually of the rules and regulations of things that are allowed in Westfield, so that they can comply properly. But no, I'm not aware there's any incentive to turn anyone away.
So the question is then, if I have a non-professional friend from another town and I want to hire him to do my lawn, can he apply, and does he need to have like a license or a business company or anything like that? Or can he just give his name and receive the information?
Tom, you want to address that one? I think there was a provision in the ordinance that would exempt things like that.
Yeah, there's certain, there's certainly exemption for, the kid next door who wants to cut the grass, if that's what you're asking.
No,
But
not exactly. It's this is a person who just does this as a sideline. So they don't live in town and they don't have a company, and I want to pay them to do my lawn. Are they going to be able to do that, or do they have to have, a company registered somewhere?
So generally, anybody who has a commercial license plate will be required to be registered. So if they have a truck and they do it as a business, then they'll be required to register under this ordinance.
But if they have no commercial vehicles, there's no requirement, or they'll just they can just go apply, fill out the form and get the business license, or?
It's not a,
or sorry.
Well, I mean, it's hard to, it's intended to go against, to register commercial landscape. So it's hard to answer that question without knowing the specifics of who your friend is, but.
Well, no, sorry, this is more hypothetical, but I guess the bottom line I'm asking is, if anyone comes to the city, says, I would like to have this permit, what would be the criteria for denying them that permit?
So the application provisions and process is set forth in section 9-39 of the proposed ordinance. They simply fill out a form provided by the town. They sign the form. They provide the correct legal name under which the business is operated, and other pertinent information as the town requires to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. And if they pay the fee, then the license will likely be granted. Again, it's a hypothetical, so I can't address each particular situation. But there is a process set forth for the application.
Sorry, I guess I'm just not clear on what investigation or what results would deny the permit. I'm not clear on that. I guess I don't want to be forced into using, a commercial company that already has this because of this ordinance, where you just want to give information to people.
I can't answer a hypothetical like that. I'm not sure why that would be the case if there's a commercial landscaper and they want to do business in town, like most other towns in Union County and probably in the state. I don't know. I haven't looked at all 565 municipalities, but there is a basic level of registration required under this ordinance. It's not intended to be onerous. It's intended to allow the town to attract commercial operators who are doing business in our town, largely because of issues in the past where we were unable to attract landscapers who left debris in the street or left sticks and leaves in the street.
So it's more about contact information then.
It will allow us to, know who's doing business in the town as a commercial landscaper.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else like to be heard in this ordinance? Anyone else? Seeing none, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
Great, this hearing is closed. Councilman Hapgood, please move the adoption of Finance Policy Committee ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance number 2210 on second reading, an ordinance for calendar year 2021 to establish a cap bank.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
yes,
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I'd also like to move for the adoption of special ordinance number 2221 on second reading. Bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements and the acquisition of new additional or replacement equipment and machinery, new communication and signal systems equipment, and new information technology equipment in, by, and for the town of Westfield in the County of Union, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2,650,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of such bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes. Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
yes,
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Councilman Parmalee, please move for the adoption of code review and town property committee ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance number 2211 on second reading, and ordinance rescinding certain provisions of the town code for the town of Westfield. This is the one about the library. I just have some context on it, the library ordinance that we're considering tonight. And again, I think I said this before, but by way of background, years ago, Westfield implemented an ordinance that made it possible, or made it a possible municipal offense to have an overdue library book. And as far as we can tell, that ordinance was thankfully never used to actually charge anyone with an offense. But the context underlying this decision to rescind the ordinance is that in 2019, the American Library Association passed a resolution calling on libraries nationwide to find a way to eliminate overdue fines, because they found that those fines were a form of social inequity. And the association found that library users with limited income tend to stay away from libraries because they may be afraid of incurring debt. And then it stood to reason that these same users will also stay away if they have already incurred a fine simply because they don't have the money to pay it. And libraries in major cities all across the country have analyzed the effects of late fees and found that they disproportionately deter low-income residents and children from actually coming to the library. And that's the effect of that is driving away the people who actually stand to benefit the most from free library resources. And of course, baked into that analysis was the fact that for many families, the library was the best source of computer and online internet access and resources. And it wasn't just simply about checking on books. And so based on the ALA's resolution, the Westfield Library Board weighed the facts and alternatives and made the decision to follow the ALA's guidance by choosing to eliminate the fees. And that's the decision that the board had the responsibility for. And in light of that, we thought it was best to eliminate an anachronism that I think we can all agree was unfairly punitive and was never enforced by the town in any event. So can we have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just real quick, do we know what happens though to people that don't return books to the library or museum passes, or what's the, what happens? As I understand it, it's up to the library board. I think they've retained a third-party vendor to help them in recovering the assets. But I think the idea is to get more people to come back to the library, and they're going to encourage them with a carrot rather than a stick. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
yes,
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I'd also like to move General Ordinance number 2212 on second reading, an ordinance requiring the licensing and registration of landscapers within the town of Westfield and making certain amendments to the Conservation Center regulations. And Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to kind of give some context with respect to this ordinance as well. Under the
Absolutely.
circumstances. So just to give everyone a quick update on the registration ordinance, in order to provide a little bit of clarity on what's up for adoption this evening by the council. And I think it's necessary in part, given that I've seen some articles in the press recently that have conflated the intended purpose and effect of the registration ordinance with the concept of restricting, regulating, or banning the use of lawn and landscaping equipment, and specifically the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. So the landscaper ordinance that we're addressing tonight came out of the Code Review and Town Property Committee after several discussions. And the purposes of the licensing and registration process is simple: to provide the town with contact information about the landscapers, and landscapers, by the way, includes tree removal businesses as well, that are doing business in Westfield, and to provide a method the landscapers, to provide landscapers with relevant town rules and regulations so that they understand the do's and don'ts of operating in the town. Among other things, registration allows the town to more effectively enforce the town's rules when it comes not just to storm debris, but also regarding invasive plants that are prohibited, like bamboo, for example, and other rules like those related to setbacks. It also allows the town to more timely and effectively address specific resident concerns about a particular landscaping business and respond to complaints that are issued by residents. And registration also allows the town to efficiently and effectively update those landscapers as rules and regulations may change from time to time. Now, the fee for licensing itself is nominal for any commercial landscaper. It's $50, is about the same cost as 3 cans of gas. And it's been our view that the amount of the registration fee is not going to chase any landscaper away from doing business in Westfield under those circumstances. But that said, to mitigate the potential of any impact of the fee, we included a couple of key provisions in the new ordinance. First, the registration fees waived for any landscaper that's currently registered to use the Conservation Center to deposit their daily debris. And this is a great program that was started only a few years ago with just a handful of landscapers. And to date, I understand that more than 50 landscapers have registered this year. So for those landscapers, 50 different landscapers, there's no added cost for them to operate in the town because the fee is waived. Second, as Tom Jardine was saying earlier, we exempted non-commercial residents from the registration requirement. This is what I call basically the kid with a lawnmower exemption. It's what the reason we included that was we don't want to discourage enterprising neighborhood kids from earning some summer money by mowing lawns. As for leaf blowers themselves, that's not part of the ordinance tonight, but we recognize that this is a quality of life issue, and it's something that the Code Review Committee, Public Works Committee, and the town have been continually monitoring. I can say I've been on Code Review now for a year and a couple of months, and it's something that we address frequently. Just last June, we enacted an ordinance restricting the hours that those devices can be used, and that's an ordinance that's something we can and continually do revisit. And moreover, we're also considering whether or not to implement additional restrictive measures. In fact, tonight, Summit's Town Council is considering a measure that would prohibit the use of blowers during certain summer months. Councilman LaGrippo, who's also on the Code Review Committee, has forwarded to me some recent community comments and articles towards that end regarding a handful of other towns that have considered and or implemented those kinds of measures. But before we take any steps in that direction, we want to make sure that an appropriate balance, we strike an appropriate balance, and that all stakeholders, and that's not just landscapers, but it's also the myriad of homeowners who maintain their own lawns, have a chance to weigh in on the issue. As far as the landscaper who lives in Cranford or somewhere else and operates a business, he has to register. It's a $50 fee, but it's just a registration process, and that's it. To sum it up, if and when we do implement any additional measures or restrictions, as far as the use of gas blowers or anything else, tonight's registration ordinance is going to allow us to promptly inform the vast majority of those landscapers who operate in this town, and then to reasonably enforce those changes as soon as possible.
Thank you. Very great summary, Councilman. May I have a second? Please
Second.
call the roll. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrepo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the executive meeting held on March 9th, 2021, and the conference and regular meetings of March 23rd, 2021?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Mrs. Fowler, do we have any petitions or communications?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Please virtually raise your hand to make your comment on any subject on which we have jurisdiction, and be sure to state your name and address for the record.
Okay, first we have Michelle Habayeb. Michelle?
Hey, Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Michelle Habayeb. I'm at 507 Witchwood Road. I'm actually raising my hand because I happen to be president of the Board of Trustees at the Westfield Memorial Library. And I just wanted to respond to Mark's question about the fine-free policy that we actually just voted to approve at our last board meeting. And Mark, you might remember when you were on the board last year that we had talked about this at several of our board meetings. I think Mark Parmalee or Councilman Parmalee did an excellent job summarizing why we're making this change. And I just wanted to be sure that the public understood that this isn't a free-for-all. We do have policies and procedures in place to ensure that books are returned to the library. Should people not return books to the library on time, they won't be charged fees, but they will not be able to check out any additional books. And should they not return those materials, we will be charging them for them. The only caveat to that is that we do plan on continuing with fines on certain materials. Like we have some hotspots and some of our newer books, we will continue to charge fees on those for the time being. I also wanted to mention, because I think this has come up at previous town council meetings, that the board is actually, the library, excuse me, is governed by a separate board of trustees. We do have monthly board meetings. They're typically held on the fourth Wednesday of each month. And the public's welcome to participate. We're always happy to answer any questions that our patrons may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, we have Bill Conroy. Bill, are you there? Bill?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bill, go ahead. Name and address, please.
Sure. Bill Conroy. I'm at 19 Manchester Drive.
Great.
I had a question. It just follows up on what you're doing with registration landscapers. And my question is, and it might be isolated to just, my block, but it seems like they are exceeding noise limits. And I was trying to understand how do you enforce, or what should a citizen do in this circumstance? How do you address it?
You're talking about noise from landscapers, is that what it is?
Correct. Yeah. It seems like we went out with the the apps where you could measure decibel, and they were double what the current ordinance is, but we really weren't sure what we're supposed to do about that.
So Mr. Conroy, why don't you hold that thought and let's take the public comment. And when we close it, we'll see if we can't find, if maybe Mr. Jardim or somebody can answer that for you.
Very good.
Well,
Thank you.
okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, we have, get this here, we have Mr., Greg Casco, did you want to speak? Let me, Greg Casco, are you there? Greg?
He's not raising his
How about
hand.
now?
Yes.
Can you hear me
There
now?
you go.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was looking at my iPhone here. I'm used to using my iPad, so the buttons are in different places on each. Good evening, Greg Casco, 434 Everson Place. I first want to thank Councilman LaGrippo for getting back to me and Councilman Contract regarding a residential construction issue we had in our neighborhood. I sent out an email last week to them and Mayor Brindle, and they were both prompt in their response. I thank you both for following up. The reason why I'm calling tonight, I followed the last council meeting, and over the last, I'd say 11 years, I became very much interested in following the budget process. And as boring as some people might think it is, you gain a lot of insight and knowledge as to where our money's going. And I would recommend anybody going on the town website and not necessarily reviewing the whole budget, but there might be something you're interested in looking at, whether it be salaries, expenditures, surplus. I am following, as a registered Republican, I do follow the Westfield Republican Committee Facebook page. And last week there was a letter put out by a former councilman who was also, I believe, on the finance committee of the last administration, Sam Delafera. And I saw it as an attack on this administration's budgeting process. And based on what I saw in that letter, Mr. Delafera said that we deserve a more sustainable budgeting that better spends our tax dollars. I can't think of a better way of spending our tax dollars than to not overtax us, where we have a $14 million surplus sitting around and we don't need it. At the same time, you know, he said the town cannot continue to increase spending and taxes on residents. Well, when he says increase spending and taxes, I think he's pretty much talking about the administration he served under. You know, they said that we have to better spend our tax dollars on reducing crime. You go back to 2011, and the last administration reduced our police department by 20%. You know, you reduce a 50-man police department by 20%, you're losing 10 cops. And it's typically the patrol officers you're losing, because the ranking officers, detectives, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, chief, they're not the ones leaving. I mean, they'll leave when they retire, and through attrition, we hire new people, but people were beginning to leave. We weren't hiring new cops. So if a senior patrolman left with 25 years on the job, they weren't replacing him. So we really can't afford to cut our police, our law enforcement, or our fire protection. You know, spending tax dollars on reducing crime, that's kind of hypocritical, if you ask me. Secondly, there were some comments regarding the paving of roads in Westfield, and we're entering into the campaign season, and there's going to be a lot of misinformation put out there. And one of the things that I took to heart was the criticism that people are throwing at this administration, saying that our roads in Westfield look like roads in third world countries. And I want to remind residents that for years, when I attended council meetings and approached the microphone and addressed the last administration on road repairs, I would always remind them that when we have utility companies such as gas, electric, water, sewer. When we have, whether it be utility companies or contractors building new houses and digging in the roadway, we should be requiring these contractors to repair the roadway in kind of what it was before they dug into that roadway. And a lot of times the patches that were being replaced were temporary. And nobody was following up with those companies to have them come back in the springtime and summertime when it's prime paving and repair those patches. And they go into the next winter. And as we all know, water freezes, it can break anything, and water would get into those seams. It would blow out that patch. Next thing you know, we have potholes. So I credit this administration, because when I came to this administration a few years ago and said, hey, look, why aren't we holding our contractors and utility companies responsible? This administration under Mayor Brindle did something about it. My pleas fell on deaf ears in the past. But with this administration, I got somewhere, to the point where this administration has paved, doubled the paving, if not in some cases, tripled the amount of paving that we've gotten in Westfield. So I think in closing, what a lot of people need to do is, if you see something, whether it be a letter to the editor or a Facebook post in one of the numerous Westfield groups, or maybe it's a conversation at a dinner party, go and research the information you're reading or you're hearing. Go to the town website. The information is there, and you're going to see that a lot of times people's opinions are based on politics and who they don't want and who they want. Again, in listening to the budget presentation by Councilwoman Habgood, I think that this town is in a good position financially. I am very happy with where my tax dollars are going. You know, a lot of people say, why do you still live here? Your girls aren't in school anymore. I love this town. I love my house. I love my neighbors. It's a great town. I can afford to stay here. I don't feel like I'm being overtaxed. Yeah, I don't have kids in school. I mean, we stayed here. I grew up here, but I stayed here because of the school system. But there's a lot more that this town offers than just the school system. And I thank this town council for stewardship. I think you guys are doing a great job, and I look forward to continuing that into the future. Thank you very much for the time, and you all have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casco. Anyone else like to be heard? Please raise your hand virtually. Brad? Brad, are you there?
Thank you, Jim.
Good.
First of all, I would like to second what the past caller said about how this administration has handled everything that they have done, finance and otherwise. Brad Shinani, 239 Avon Road, and a 32-year resident of Westfield. As co-chair of Lifelong Westfield, I would like to personally thank, from the bottom of my heart, the Gen to Gen team that was on before. They have done a Herculean job in working with our Lifelong Westfield team in getting our seniors vaccinated. If I can tell you, we've had 30, 40, 50 seniors that have come back to me and thanked that team for all of their efforts. It has been absolutely amazing. And on the same note, I would like to also thank very, very much from the bottom of my heart, Chief Bataloro and his team, because we have had certain seniors that have been unable to get themselves transported for their vaccinations, and every single one has been taken by a member of our police force. So thank you very, very much, Chief, and your team. And Gen to Gen, you have been absolutely wonderful. So I thank them. And I know the health department, who I worked very, very closely with, has been absolutely sensational. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you all, and such greatly appreciated for everything you guys are doing.
Thanks, Brad.
Mayor, since Brad is on, Brad, can you just talk about tomorrow's webinar, since you just spoke?
Which one, David?
Can you talk about tomorrow's Aging in Place webinar? 'Cause I'm
Oh,
not-
yes, tomorrow at 11 a.m., we are going to have a webinar for seniors on aging in place. And anybody that has not registered and received the information can either call the rec department or go on Westfield NJ Seniors, and we will send them all the Zoom information on our webinar, which we're very much looking forward to. And then the webinar at the end of the month, which the mayor prompted everyone on, that we're doing with Chief Badaloro on scams. This will be the second scam webinar that we've held in 5 months. And the reason why we are doing it again is because it has increased, not decreased, over the past 6 to 9 months. So Chief, I thank you also for that. Your team has been sensational.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you all.
Brad.
Sure.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, anyone else like to be heard? Anyone else? Okay, I think seeing none there, you may close the public portion.
Great. So this public portion is closed. And I did just want to first of all, I want to publicly, and I should have brought it up earlier, thank Brad Shinani and Deirdre Deline, who are co-chairs of the Lifelong Westfield, and have been stepped up for everything that we've ever asked, and were instrumental in this Gen to Gen initiative. So incredibly grateful for your support. And thank you, Mr. Casco, for your comments. Obviously greatly appreciated. And the comment that Mr. Conroy had about how they report when they believe that there's noise violations and so forth coming from landscapers. I would refer this to Jim potentially. I guess now that they're registered, they would be able to call the town. Do we have a process for that?
Mayor, I can address that.
You are Tom,
if you
whoever,
like.
yes.
Yeah, Mayor, it's often happens in municipalities and jurisdictions. There's probably a lot of different laws that could apply in any given situation. And I happen to recently be looking at all our noise ordinances or noise related things. So we have lots of different laws on our books, actually. Section 1411 of our local code reads noise prohibited generally in buildings or premises. Section 14-12A prohibits the use of mechanical equipment which makes loud and disturbing noises and sets certain time limits for doing so on weekends and other days. The Board of Health, our local Board of Health, has a noise ordinance that is on our books. And then there's just generally ordinance that most towns have, like disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct, prohibition of the mechanical equipment regulations. And that's just locally. In addition to that, actually, the state of New Jersey has a certain noise ordinance or nuisance codes. The Department of Environmental Protection enforces the New Jersey Noise Control Act of 1971. And in addition to that, there is a general nuisance code that's enforced by the New Jersey Department of Health. So in any given situation, there may be a slew of ordinances or state statutes that may apply. There's maybe a certain overlap of those laws in any given situation. And each of those has a different enforcement mechanism. Oftentimes our police department will be enforcing those ordinances, but if you're not sure and you want to make a noise complaint, you should just call the general town hall number 908-789-4040 and administration can direct you to the right place that will take care of that complaint.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Tom. Thank you. I think it's very important to note that we have complaints come in from time to time, and it does matter the type of situation. I can remember something last year where the Board of Health really relies upon the state code and does have, decibel readers and comes out and will do that analysis as necessary. And of course, as Tom mentioned, the police department does that. But just for all residents, Mr. Conroy and others, the noise you're describing, obviously, it's landscape related, it sounded like, and that's usually, obviously, hopefully short-lived, in a neighborhood, but the staff, obviously, that will come out will do its best to get out in a timely fashion, but it may not always happen exactly the time it's happening. But still, as the town attorney said, make the complaint, put it in so we can track it at least. That's a good data for us to have as we go forward. As Councilman Parmalee said before, as we monitor these things, it's good to have that data of what complaints are coming in. So thank you again for making your comments.
Thank you. Okay, so moving to bills and claims, Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. And actually, before we move on to that next section, I just wanted to add to Mr. Casco's comments and just remind everyone that all the information about the budget is indeed on the website. The presentation that we gave 2 weeks ago, introducing the 2021 budget. The budget is scheduled to be ratified in 2 weeks. So if you review the information or have any questions generally, you can feel free to reach out to me or any of the people on the Finance Policy Committee, or send an email to budget@westfieldnj.gov. We encourage you to ask questions and inform yourself about the budget decisions that we're taking. And on that note, I will move on to the rest of the meeting. I'd like to first move bills and claims in the amount of $371,882.65.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next on the agenda, reports of standing committees, beginning with the Finance Policy Committee. Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 7 resolutions that I'd like to move as a package. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for drug licenses for March 2021. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for unused parking permit fee. A resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for overpaid taxes in 2020, 2021. A resolution establishing a custodian for the Fire Department Petty Cash Fund. A resolution authorizing the submission of an application for $20,000 in funding through PSE&G's Sustainable Jersey Grants Program. A resolution authorizing the submission of an application for $2,000 in funding through PSE&G's Sustainable Jersey Grants Program, and a resolution to appoint the electrical subcode official.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
And I'd also like to move General Ordinance number 2213 on first reading, an ordinance to amend General Ordinance number 2043, entitled An Ordinance Fixing the Salaries of Certain Employees of the Police and Fire Departments in the Town of Westfield, and various amendments thereto.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to just again thank the PBA for their cooperation, and also to thank Chief Lauro for his insight. And again, I know he's also very happy that this is done, so his members can move on to obviously doing their job as great as they do it. So thank you, Chief, as well.
And Jim, I'll also add my thanks to you. I know how much time you spent in this negotiation, and obviously, I think with Chief Balboa's leadership, that we have one of the premier police departments in the state, and it's only getting better and better. And the professionalism, I think, demonstrated by the PBA and the leadership with the accreditation and so forth, I think thrilled to have this contract signed, proud of all of them, and look forward to a really great, productive partnership, continued partnership with the PBA. So hats off all of them, and thanks to you, Chief, so much for your efforts on this. It's great. So please call the roll.
I was off mute. Councilwoman Hapgood,
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Katz,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilman Boyce,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Next is the Public Works Committee, Councilman Contract.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move a resolution to award a contract for professional environmental engineering services.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion has carried. And Councilman Contract, did you want to give any further update on the Earth Day? The green-
Yeah, I'd
the
love
green
to.
team?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So on behalf of the Green Team, the team's been hard at work. We're in April, which is Earth Day, but we like to think of it as Earth Month. So there is a full slate of activities promoting sustainability and the earth, and educating all of us about the importance of being and living more sustainably, including, and I'll just mention some highlights. So there's a marker and crayon and pen recycling program that's being done in conjunction with the schools that starts on April 6th, which is today, and runs through the 24th. There's a Green Olympiad because the Olympics are planned, at least for the summer, where we're encouraging children in pre-kindergarten up to 8th grade to live a more sustainable life and earn points and prizes. More details, I'm sure, will be on the town website. There's a plant sale starting today, and I imagine more details will be on the town website. On April 22nd, which is Earth Day, which is on a Thursday, we're going to be planting a ceremonial tree in conjunction with the Tree Preservation Commission in front of Memorial Pool. Big thank you to Harmony Design and the company of the chairperson of the Tree Preservation Commission, who is donating that tree, Mark Nissim. The mayor will be there. Shelley, you got your gloves ready for a ceremonial shovel?
Absolutely.
And then the big event is on April 24th, which is Saturday, which is our third annual free market. So as a reminder, that's where residents can bring things and take things for free. It's like a big tag sale, but everything's free, and whatever's not taken, we have arranged with Green Drop to come, and all of those goods end up, into the homes of deserving families in the broader area. We will also be having our second, third annual flea market. I'm sorry, Earth Day Fair. We didn't have the Earth Day Fair last year. We have a number of vendors coming to talk to us and educate us on how to be and live more sustainably, covering EV cars and solar and home energy audits, etc. So please come. We're really excited that our new EV car dealer in town, Karma, will be in attendance, and my understanding is bringing one of their very sleek and sporty EV cars, and potentially, if health regulations allowing residents to sit in them with proper COVID guidelines and sanitation in between people sitting. So that's really exciting. If you are interested in coming to the free market, there are specific times for dropping items off in the morning and then taking items throughout the day. So please see the town website for more details, or reach out to myself and I'll get you the details. And then lastly, we'll wrap up Earth Day and Earth Month with park cleanups on Sunday, May 2nd. I believe we have 50 or more volunteers already for Brightwood Park and a separate group for Tamaqua, but the more the merrier. And there is a sign up link. I don't know it offhand, but I'm sure if you need it, just reach out to me and I'll get it for you. So thank you. It's a really exciting time for us in Westfield.
It's great. And thank you, Councilman. And before we adjourn, Councilman Mackey, did you want to give just an update on the downtown plans?
I do. As the mayor mentioned previously, the Downtown Westfield Corporation is working with Streetworks, who has retained the Biederman Group. So Dan Biederman is a legend in the parks world. He's the architect behind the Renaissance of Bryant Park. And we've been very fortunate to have their expertise. So Bob Zuckerman and myself walked the town with some of Biederman's team, met with Mr. Gilday and the DPW on Quimby Street. We have some exciting plans this summer to enhance the pedestrian plaza that we started last year. You're going to see new tents, tables, chairs, concrete covers, all of which have been paid for by a Main Street grant, which we were also very fortunate to get. We can see the tents going up. It's very exciting. Spring is sprung. I think people are really ready to get out there and enjoy some outdoor dining. And with that, we are losing some parking on the street. So we just want to remind everybody that those 15-minute spots are there to make sure that our restaurants and our merchants can have a nice, quick pickup turnover. It's to keep their business running smoothly while we enjoy these parklets. So please be mindful of the 15 minutes. The Westfield Police Department will be actively enforcing that again now that we're going to be set up. And we just really look forward to having everybody come back. There's going to be a lot of programming on the street, and we're really, really happy to announce that we'll be able to bring back street sounds this summer. I know we're all looking forward to that.
We are. We can't wait, as a matter of fact. Okay, so with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Opposed? This motion is carried and this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Night,
Good night,
thanks.
everyone.